All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wow.
Wanted to thank everybody for coming out to our new, this is kind of a new program for me. One of the questions we often get is people will say, how do I get married? When they convert, like, how do I get married? How do I meet somebody? Or even those who are returning back to faith will wonder, like, how can I go about getting married? And one of the things that we as a community really don't talk about is how people get married. We kind of leave people in the dark. We just see people who pop up and they're married. It's almost like a stork came down and delivered them into being married. And what we wanted to do with this series is kind of start having conversations with people who on how they got married. Those who are willing to share, how they met their spouse and what was the process. What would they recommend after going through the process, to help people along this path? We always have, people who want to get married communally, and it's a challenge, and it's a challenge that the community has to answer. So wanted to thank our two first guests, mashallah. So if we see this series after the night, you know who to blame. So we have so we know what to lay the burden on these two beautiful people, mashallah. So we wanted to kind of go over a little bit. We have, brother Ayyub Abdush. I'm going to read a little bio about brother Ayyub, and sister Ndola Owuo.
There it is.
Mashallah. Hey, good. So, brother Ayyub Abdul Shakur was born into a family with a rich history, and he's always been family oriented. Born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, Ayyub spent his formative years in Austell, Georgia, where he moved when his parents divorced. A loving son, brother, husband, and father. He's an entrepreneur with a focus in accounting. Man, I live with one of those people, man.
Hey, man, that's not what we're here to talk about right now.
So you feel me a little bit. All right.
Yeah, I feel you, sis. I feel you. Even in childhood, Ayyub had marriage on his mind for his future. When he felt the time was right, he prayed about being blessed with a beautiful, believing woman who would be a great mother to his children. So he went after what he wanted. Alhamdulillah, it's working out. Alhamdulillah. So I don't know. I think your wife wrote this.
I promise I did. I did that.
So, all right. So our sister Ndola Owuo Haygood is from Atlanta, Georgia, but moved to Senegal, West Africa at the age of 10. During the 2.5 years overseas, she visited 3 other African countries just before returning to America and accepting Islam. Although her parents divorced before her time in Senegal, they remarried when she was 15, mashallah, and are still together to this day. An artist, idealist, and romantic at heart, Ndola married her teenage sweetheart at 22 when they were coming into their 15th anniversary this year. Mashallah. Having faced unimaginable trials and obstacles, she still believes in the resiliency of the human experience, and that honesty, authenticity, and accountability are therapeutically healing. All right, so this is gonna be fun. So we'll start with you, Sister Ndola.
Yes.
You converted to Islam at what age?
The week before I turned 13.
How was that experience?
It was interesting because I was in Senegal. We had been raised Christian with the big quotes Christian. We weren't. We did Christmas sometimes, and we went to church for like a rites of passage or church anniversary. But we were not Sunday school, go to church on Sunday, church on Wednesday. We wasn't that family, and my mother said that she never believed that Jesus was the Son of God, so she never taught us that. So we were Christians who were taught that Jesus was not the Son of God. And then my dad was atheist at the time. So it was a real interesting kind of mixed bag of stuff. when we went to Senegal, like so it was right after my parents divorced, and so we're talking about early 90s, and so there wasn't technology, and you could barely make phone calls, and so I went from having a really tight community of people to don't speak the language, it smells weird, the food tastes weird, you know, like just totally taken from everything I ever knew. Right. And at some point in that process, I started feeling like I needed something. I didn't know what I needed. I was like, I need something. There's something missing. And the most logical thing to me was I need a religion. Because I was like, I know I'm not really Christian. Like I always knew we weren't really Christian because I knew real Christians. They believed things that I didn't believe. And when I would talk to them, I will either get told I was being a problem because you don't question God, or I would get pinched for being disrespectful. I wasn't allowed to ask questions, unfortunately. And so I was like, so I know Christianity isn't for me. Maybe I'll be Jewish. And so, so I said, this is what I knew. I had heard of Christianity. I heard of Judaism. I hadn't heard of anything else. And I was in a Muslim country, but they didn't speak English. So I wasn't learning about Islam, or at least I didn't think I was at the time. Around you, I'm 10, 11 years old. I heard of these two religions, so that's the next one. I know I'm not this one, but what is this other one? Judaism. So there were very few books about it. The ones that I found, I read them, and I was like, nah, I'm not Jewish. And I think I said something about it to this young man named Usman, and he was like, why don't you be Muslim? And I was like, well, why would I? Mind you, many of the Muslims that were there for disciplinary reasons. And so I saw them as Islam instead of Islam as Islam. And so Usman was like, you talking about because of our behavior? Oh, we're not good Muslims. Let me teach you what Islam really is. Like, don't take our behavior and our word for it. Like, discount what we got going on. What do you really want to know? Like, what are your questions? And so we started just talking, and we would meet at, school is all day where we were. You go at Fajr before the sunrise, you come home after sunsets, you have breaks for lunch and prayer, but you're in school all day. And so during some of the breaks, we would meet and talk. And this went on for months, asking questions. I was pretty opposed to fasting. I was pretty opposed to polygamy. I was pretty opposed to having to do stuff I didn't want to do.
You want straight controversy.
I'm not doing this. I ain't doing that. What I'm not going to do. I don't believe this. And he was like, sis, you just don't know. Like, all of what you're not going to do is based in ignorance. And he was absolutely right. As he explained things and brought me books like hadith books, because you can't really read the Quran and hadith by yourself. If you do, you'll end up very confused. Or at least I ended up very confused and like, oh, where are women here? And where is this? And he was like, it's here. You weren't looking in the right places. So I questioned him for months. And when he couldn't answer me, he would bring somebody else to answer me. And during Ramadan, how old am I? 20 some years ago. I was 12. 25 years ago? Yeah, 25 years ago. We met up, and mind you, I had been fasting and praying and stuff because I was literally one of the only non-Muslims in the village. Like, it was maybe two of us, literally. And so my mom was like, well, maybe you can like cover and fast to kind of just make it easier on yourself. You're gonna be the only one eating, the only one not covered. It might be more comfortable to kind of fit in a little bit. And I didn't mind, so I did it. And so this one day in Ramadan, we met up, and he was like, all right, what you got? I'm ready. And I didn't have any more questions. And he was like, so you ready? You believe this stuff? And I was like, oh man, I think I do. Oh crap. I gotta be Muslim now.
Now I'm gonna have to do something with that.
Now I have to act on this. And so he was like, let's do it now. And I was like, no, I feel like this is a really big decision. Like, I want to tell my dad, and I want to like get a nice outfit and like make this a thing. And so the sheikh in the village, his name was Sheikh Hassan, he's passed away, may Allah be pleased with him. I went to him, and he was like, you ready to change your name? I was like, well, I don't know if I'm gonna change my name, but I think I want to be Muslim though. And he was like, this Jummah, let's do it. We're gonna do it for Jummah. So it was the final Jummah of Ramadan that year. And my birthday was a few days later, and it landed on Eid. And so that whole turning 13 birthday, my Shahada, it was attended by literally thousands of people were at the masjid for Jummah. And it was a really kind of like a big and overwhelming kind of experience. And I've been Muslim ever since. That was 25 years ago.
MashaAllah. That's a kind of serious. I mean, that's serious intellectual work at that age. Yeah.
Yeah. I can just say it like it is now.
Yeah, now we call those talented and gifted. So, Brother Ayyub, you grew up in Atlanta.
Yes.
So you grew up in a Muslim family.
Yes.
How was that experience?
It was good. I grew up in the West End community, and so it was a little bit of an oasis in the middle of the hood, essentially. And it was all I knew was Islam. You know what I mean? From the schools that we went to the people we interacted with. I mean, it was a lot of families around at that time, and so I mean, we used to be like 30 children deep in the park, like just nothing but Muslims. And then the Adhan is called. Everybody migrates to the masjid. So it was a great experience for me. And my father and my uncles, they had a business inside of the community that was very beneficial to the community. And so, being in that family as well, it was a lot of expectations, a lot of hard work. You know what I mean? I couldn't just go to my father and say, "Can I get $1 to go to the store?" It was like, "You can put in this work real quick, and then I'll give you $1."
Yeah.
And
no handouts here, man.
Yeah. All the children had to do it, so it wasn't like I was, they made me special just because I was the son. You know what I mean? Kind of situation.
Right.
And it was, alhamdulillah, the brothers, they had to put in a lot of work. So the sutra teams at night and stuff like that. And so a lot of the men weren't necessarily present in the house all the time. You know what I mean? They were in the community, you know. So that's just the way it was, And so I spent a lot of time, in the house with my mother and with other families. We did a lot of communal things, as far as on birthdays and stuff like that, because these were inner city. Most of the people in the community were inner city people from other regions of the country that came together. And so there were a lot of, I guess you can call it Black experiences that they still wanted to have, so everybody didn't say, birthdays are a bid'ah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody didn't do that. And so there was acknowledgement of those things that carried on from, people when they weren't Muslim. And so we all got together, and alhamdulillah, a lot of the bonds that were created when I was a child, I still have to this day. And so it's a lot of people in my circle that I have not known. You know what I mean? There's not been a time where I don't remember them. And it's a lot of people who were at my akika, that were at my children's akikas.
Wow.
And so, I really reflect on that kind of thing because it's very powerful. It's like the work that so many put into me, and for me to be here is not just for nothing, And alhamdulillah, my father, I've grown to learn. May Allah be pleased with him. He passed 6 years ago, but I've learned that he was always kind of the rebel in his family. Like I come from so it was 3 brothers, right? My grandfather and my grandmother, they had 3 sons, and all of them were athletes and things of that nature. My grandparents went to Hampton University.
Oh, okay.
So my father was the baby of the family, and so my uncles, both of them went to play football at Hampton, right? But my father was like, "I'm going to Lafayette, this Ivy League school, you know what I mean? The white people, you know what I mean?" So it was like, he was the valedictorian of what they call Southern Lab, which is the high school associated with Southern University.
Right.
My grandfather, he's a legendary coach there. And, that was like, man, this valedictorian of this Black school that has all this Black history is going to these white folks. You know what I mean? Kind of situation. And then I've grown to learn that even in the church, they were very active in the church and in the community, that he would always question things. You know what I'm saying? He would question his teachers. He was questioning the people in the church, and so it was never in a disrespectful way. But a lot of times in that time, if you question anything, it's seen as disrespectful.
Yeah.
You know, but he stood in who he really wanted to be. So, you know, in I believe 1980 or 79, he converted to Islam, you know, and you know, and from there he met my mother, and I was their first child.
Yes.
You know, and then I have 7 siblings, and I'm in the middle. So I have 2 older brothers, then it's me, then I have 2 younger brothers and 2 younger sisters.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, so I come from a big family, and
yeah,
it's good stuff. But my father, like, so on my mother's side, her brother is also Muslim, and her and my father, they had a business growing up. When we were, that business that I was talking about, it was my mother's brother, my uncle, and my father, and then two other brothers that they were very close to that I call my uncles now. And so it was a very familiar kind of situation. But my mother and her brother are the only 2 Muslims out of 6 siblings on her side, and then my father is the only Muslim on his side.
Man.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll tell you all, man. So seeing you all is beautiful, because as a convert, you know, you want your kids. This is what you envision your kids being.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And all that work, you know, sure, like, you know, your parents put in, their work was for this. And we have intergenerational Islam. Like, it doesn't stop. Because a lot of times Islam stops with the convert. It doesn't go intergenerational.
Right.
So you grew up in West End.
Yep.
If you could just encapsulate what West End gave you, and what would it be?
I would say knowledge of self. You know, really digging deep and understanding who you are as a person and what that really means, and being able to understand that, you know, believing in one God is the central component to everything. You know, understanding that you can't rely on anybody, like, at any point in time, without relying on your Lord first. You know, and that was heavy. You know, prayer was heavy. You know, that was one of the biggest things that Imam Jamil really emphasized was, you know, the prayer. Like, you have to condition yourself to come to prayer. You know, in order to be successful, you got to pray. And then it took it a level deeper, where if you come together with other people and you pray together, then you can build things. You know, as you probably know, community is nothing without family. You know, and so you have to have that in order to have communities. But in order to have family, you have to be, you know, yourself has to be together first. You know what I mean? So I think that's the biggest thing, you know, outside of the relationship that were established, you know, from that. I think just that knowledge of self, because there were other aspects in the community, you know what I mean, that you could get pulled into, you know, but you always had this reminder of who you are, you know, and where you come from. And so I think that's, you know, in a nutshell kind of situation.
Okay, so you all come of age. Since you were, mashallah, you were early bird. You knew you wanted to get married at a young age. I know what I want to have. And Sister Owuo, mashallah, was you come back to America at what age?
I came back at 13, and then we went back to Senegal for it was a semester of high school when I was 16, so I guess about 3 or 4 months. And then I came back that same year, and then I've been back since. Okay,
so at what point did you say, yeah, I think I want to get married?
I think that I always knew I wasn't like him in that I was like, you know, I'm definitely gonna get married one day. But there's a lot of long-term marriage in my family. Even though my parents divorced when I was 10, they remarried when I was 15, they're still together. So they count that as like a little. My mom likes to say something like 35 years married, 40 years of love, or something like that. I don't know what year they're on now, because I know they're past 40, but she says that kind of thing, like, all right, we had that little break. But during the time where they were divorced, both of them became Muslim. And so they came back together as Muslims. So my dad was atheist when we left. And while we were gone, all of us independently converted. He converted here in America. My mom converted in Senegal. And then when we came back to America, they remarried a few years later. And so that's a big thing. Like, I don't know anybody else whose parents divorced and remarried once. I know people whose parents was in and out.
Yeah.
And there were other people, you know, a lot of stuff going on, but for them to have separated and come back together once, that's kind of like, okay, yeah, marriage. My dad's parents was married once for like over 60 years. My mother's parents were married until my mother's mother was married and her first husband passed away. And then she married my grandfather and they were married until she passed away. And then he remarried and they stayed married until she passed away. So people in my family, they get out of marriage through passing away. Not a lot of divorce. I didn't see a lot of divorce. I did have single aunts and uncles, but I didn't know why. I didn't really question it. I just knew that the people that was married. And so like even with my sisters, one of my sisters been married for like 20 years. Majida been married forever. We've been married, you know, like it's a lot of marriage. And we also, you know, Muslims get married. So even in the community, how old were we? 22, 23? We weren't like the first ones getting married. Like it was a whole bunch of marriages happening. And so I guess I kind of took it as a given. Like people in my family do this, people in my religion do this. So at some point, this is something that I'm going to do. I didn't really have a time frame on it. But, I just kind of assumed like,
it's something I'm gonna do. You wasn't about that life like Ayyub was. Your brother Ayyub was about that life. he had his marching orders early.
Right. And that's probably has something to do with it. Like being in a religious community young, especially if that's what you hear. You hear you don't do the boyfriend girlfriend thing. You get married. You get married young.
Right.
I don't remember hearing that so much as a child, but I saw marriage. And the people who weren't married, I didn't see a lot of like dating happening. Like it wasn't a lot of men or women coming in and out of their lives in front of us. And what they did personally, I don't know. But most of my classmates' parents was married, either to their parent or to somebody. It was married. So I just saw a lot of marriage.
So you had good modeling.
I did. Like I said, even before we were a Muslim, we were in a very Pan-African, Afrocentric community. And a lot of people that was married back then, they still married to the same folks. Or to somebody that been married to for like 20 years. Like the few people that divorced, they remarried, they're still together. And so I can see somebody who I knew when I was in elementary school, and it's like, oh, that same couple, like, how long been together? And so a lot of the people I grew up with, their parents are still together. And so, it was a lot of, it didn't even dawn on us how odd our situation was until when I had my school, I surveyed it and there was no single family houses. Every single set of parents was married and all the kids belonged to that set of parents. And I was like, oh, our children are getting this strange thing that we got where everybody around them is married. And it's unfortunate that it's strange, but it is strange.
Now it's strange.
It's strange.
Okay, so Brother Ayyub, you say, who do you tell when you're serious about wanting to get married?
The first person I kind of had a conversation with was my father, you know, because he had been married a couple of times, you know, but through a child's lens, I was able to see him in all these different stages. And I knew that he was very family oriented and that he truly cared. He didn't just fly by the whim, get married kind of situation. They just didn't work out for whatever reason, you know. And so I bounced it off him first, you know, because I knew that he would be able to tell me if I was ready or not, you know. And so, you know, just to kind of backtrack, when I was 19 years old. When I was 19, she was 17, was when the idea of us getting together to get married happened. It was one of my village ummis, right? Yeah. Who was working with her mom at a school in the community. And who knows what women talk about, but we came up. And so my village ummi was like, you know, I think Ayyub would be good for Ndola.
No, she said, I need a good girl for my Yubi. Who y'all got? That's what she said.
Let me get straight to the point.
Women talk, you know what I'm saying? Women talk, you know?
Yeah.
And
Let me get straight to the point in here.
And so what happened was I was at the family business one summer from school, and her mom came up there. And let me go a little further back, right? So our mothers actually went to high school together in Philadelphia.
Oh.
Yeah, they graduated together.
Right? And so then what happened, they both ended up in Atlanta. And her aunt is a doctor, and she has been my doctor since I was born. Like, she was at my birth. You know,
she delivered him.
She was there, right? She was there, and so their family has always been involved in our family. Even when her mother had a school when we were younger, and after I left the Muslim community school, I went to their school, which was a Pan-African school.
Right.
You know, I don't remember him from that.
Right. And so, you know, we used to walk to their house because the school was at their house. And so, you know, her parents, they taught me when I was younger. And so they were able to see me, you know, grow up. And so when she came to me, it wasn't a stranger coming to me. It was Sister Jalila coming to me, you know. And it was like, you know, I think I got somebody for you. And I was like, who? She was like, my daughter Ndola. I was like, okay. And like she said, we weren't really interacting at the time. So it was like, I don't remember.
But it's crazy because we was on the same swim team. We went to the same school, but we did not know each other.
Right. And so it wasn't like social media now where I could go Google it real quick and say, okay, all right. So, you know, and then 20 years ago. Right. And then one of our village ummis, she passed, you know, and so we were at a janazah, man. Allah be pleased with Sister Kanza, man. We were at a janazah, and my mother was like, I want you to meet. And we at the graveyard, brother.
At the cemetery.
We at the graveyard.
I'm like, Sister Nalanga.
It was awkward, right? To say the least, right? For this to be the first real introduction, right? So, you know, we kind of passed each other. We didn't really have, it wasn't the time to be joyful necessarily, you know?
Yeah.
It was weird.
It was weird, right? And so we set up a meeting, and
our parents.
Our parents set up a meeting. So they got together, we came together, and they kind of set some ground rules as far as, you know, the conditions for us to talk. At that point, you know, like I said, there wasn't no social media. So we were emailing, writing physical letters, you know what I'm saying? And having to call a landline. You know what I mean?
Hey, no calls after 8.
Hey,
but look, the thing is, the cell phone wasn't free till 9.
Right, the cell phone wasn't free till 9.
So it wasn't no cell calls happening. So you know, it was that kind of situation. So it's like, oh no, don't text me because that's 20 cents each. Right. And, So it was definitely. I feel too young for that to have been the reality, but that's what it was.
Right, and so you know, at that point, you know, I was in school, and it was like, we got to know each other a little bit, but I was like, I'm not ready to get married.
But he was away at school. I was in school in Atlanta, and he wasn't.
Where were you at?
I was in a city called Barnesville, which is about 100 miles south of Atlanta.
The kind of place you drive through and not to.
Right.
Yeah. like a sunset town. It sounds like a sunset town.
That's where my guy decides to go to school.
Right. And so so once I kind of figured I wasn't really ready to get married, we kind of were forced to kind of separate, right? Her father came to me and was like, you know, y'all not ready to get married. I need you to cease and desist, essentially, you know, and I'm gonna let her tell the other part of that.
Must I?
Yes.
So he was told to cease and desist. I was told nothing. So I thought I had been ghosted. So I was mad. And it's funny because we went from regular communication to nothing. And so I would email like, you know, how's it going? When are you coming back in town? When is this? Because I'm sure we have been making plans to do stuff. You know, next time you come to town, we're going to go to dinner or whatever. And mind you, we had been doing the whole, I guess chaperone is the best word. Like somebody's going to be around. And so, it was a stark, like abrupt, just it ended. And no one on my side of things said anything to me at all, ever. I mean, I don't know if I said, well, what happened to Ayyub? But whether I did or not, nobody said anything. And so I was not really happy about that. And he was not, I didn't have fond memories of him after that. And so he was away at school. I'm at Georgia State. And eventually I just was like, oh, well, you know, his loss. He's gone, you know, trying to make myself feel better about getting ghosted. I really was very confused by it because we went from, we knew that we were probably it for each other. Like it was pretty, 2 weeks after we started talking, we were like, okay, yeah, we're probably gonna end up getting married. But again, I was 17, he was 18. And so we also knew nobody's gonna take that seriously after a 17-year-old and 18-year-old 2 weeks in. And so we didn't tell anybody. But we were communicating from that point of view of, you know, you're kind of it for me. So I'm not really looking for anything else. And so when I know love is love no matter what your age is. So when you think that you have found the person you're going to be with, you think y'all in love, and then they disappear, literally, they're gone. Not responding to a text message, not picking up a phone call, not responding to an email. You don't see their car in West End no more. Right. I was like, what in the world? And honestly, I was only 18, but I was like, I'm done. Men suck. I'm good. If I marry somebody, I'm gonna find me a man that ain't black. These black men ain't worth nothing.
Oh man, not the Black Men Are Trash program. Like,
I would never marry a man that wasn't black. That's just for me, myself personally. I had too strong of a whole Afrocentric kind of thing, but I definitely was on some y'all ain't really worth y'all weight in salt kind of feeling. And
while a man trying to be honorable, brother trying to be honorable.
Didn't nobody tell me.
Hey,
I didn't know. If I knew, it would have been very different. But I literally was told nothing, nothing. And so I'm sure they saw me sad. Didn't nobody say nothing. So I went on about my business. You know, I'm only gonna be sad so long because I was like, man, I'm a G. I'm good. Gonna keep moving. You know what I'm saying? I'm be sad by myself in my room at night. I'm not
going to the room like.
What happened? Right, you gotta shake that off, right, Sabria? Shake it off. Shake it off. Nah, I was pretty devastated for a little while, and then I was like, you know, Masha, what are you gonna do? I guess he wasn't interested for real. He was playing games. I had all the stories and excuses that I told myself, and we didn't.
Okay, hold on. Hey, what were you doing at this time, brother?
Ghosting me.
So you know, when her father came to me, her father is like my father in the sense that they're great men. You know what I mean? They're great men. They handle responsibilities well. You know, and I had a lot of respect for her father. So it was like, this is what he's saying, you know what I mean? This is what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna, especially because of our family history, I couldn't disrespect the family. You know what I mean?
What was you doing when you saw the phone ring though? That's the question.
I was hurt too. I was hurt too. Like, man, I can't.
He was like, she's being disobedient. I'm not gonna be bad like her.
Right. And
she's breaking the rules.
And so, you know, it was hard because, you know, growing up, I never did the boyfriend and girlfriend thing. Right. You know what I'm saying? I went to public school, so I was immersed in that kind of thing. Right. I tried it one time, I did, and it just wasn't for me. It was like, this ain't, you know, it was like, you know, you want to get married one day. What is going to be special with your wife if you playing husband and wife? You know what I mean? Like, you're going to have these feelings for somebody that you're going to have to carry for a long time. You know what I mean? And so that was never anything. And I saw the drama of it. You know what I mean? It was just like, I ain't trying to deal with that, you know?
Yeah.
And so when we started talking and stuff, it was like, this is a good fit. It's familiar because our families know each other. And as you know, when you marry somebody, you don't just marry that person. You marry their family. You know, the whole thing. You know what I mean?
The whole squad.
The whole thing, right?
Everybody.
And so, you know, right. So when we weren't talking, when we went through that period where we weren't talking, it was like, okay, I got to get myself together. So I just focused on school, trying to figure out what my career goals were going to be, stuff like that. And, you know.
He was so responsible.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah.
And,
now you good, right? Now
I'm good. Right. Now I'm good.
I'm at Georgia State getting a degree and playing spades.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so how did it move from cut it off to now we're back talking?
Right. So
how long was it, and then what was that? What was the process on that?
Was it 4 years?
Yeah, it's like 4 years. And so there was an event called the Riata. It's an annual athletic competition and conference that happens, and it was actually in Flint, Michigan that year. And her sister, her father, and those three.
My dad and I decided we were going to go.
They drove up.
We didn't have anything else to do with our time, so we went to Flint.
Yeah.
Hey, you was in Michigan. Right. All you need to know is you're in Michigan. I'm from Michigan.
Didn't know he was
so good things happen in Michigan. Don't worry about
it. I didn't know he was going to be there, though. I thought that I didn't know because I'm from the other part of the West End. The West End had the Muslim part and then everybody else. I'm from the everybody else part. So I didn't know how connected he was to the West End, because even when we were recording as teenagers, he was in college by then. So I wasn't seeing him, hanging out in the West End and stuff. I saw him at school and with his family. So when we went to the Riata, I did not realize I was going to something that Ayyub would definitely be at. I thought I was going to a Muslim sporting event. So
then you look up.
I was like, oh snap, there's that loser.
This guy's been not paying me any attention for 4 years.
By then I wasn't starting Ayyub no more. I had gone on.
Right. She was living her life, right?
Moved on.
And so, but I was the captain of this basketball team that was participating and whatnot.
Mashallah.
She was recording the games. You know what I mean? Because her father is a part of our community. So of course they cheering for us. You know what I mean? And so afterwards it was like, man, I need to get that footage. You know what I mean? So
that was his end.
So, I just hit her up, like, can I get that tape?
Who is this? How do you have my number?
Breaking all kind of protocol, right? Hey, let me get that tape though.
Real talk, right? Real talk. At that time in my life, I was really trying to get myself prepared for marriage, right? I didn't have anybody in mind.
Right,
I was really just trying to work on myself, right? And so when I hit her up, it was really just for the tape.
But he didn't call me. That was back when Nextel had the chirp and you would, and it was like a walkie-talkie.
Oh yeah. Man, that's old school. Yeah.
And so it was.
He chirped me, and I was like, "Who is this? I don't have his number in my chirp."
And so literally, it was for the tape, right?
Right.
But I saw her father at the masjid all the time. All the time. And so, as we didn't really catch up at that point, I kind of.
He was eyeballing me.
Right, I was kind of watching what was going on with her. Who was talking to somebody, was, you know what I mean?
Right.
All that kind of stuff. And so finally I just approached her father like, I apologize for, the things that happened in the past as far as, us not working out before, but, I want to see, if there's some interest still there, So he was like, all right, I'll see.
Let me think about it.
What happened, baby?
That is so crazy. He came to me and was like, "Assalamu alaikum. So, you remember brother Ayyub? Yeah, he's interested. He's interested again. The only way I'd be willing to let y'all talk is if y'all get intended." What?
Hey, put it on the line, right?
No. I was like, I don't know that, brother. I was like, "Nah, I'm not doing that." He was like, "Why not?" I was like, "Daddy, number one, I haven't talked to him in 4 years. I don't know what he's been doing for 4 years. Number two, Islamically, he can be intended to 4 people and play the court. If I get intended to him and somebody else approach, they can't even, nothing can happen. I can't entertain anybody else. And I don't even know if I want to entertain him because we haven't had a conversation in 4 years. So I'm not interested in cutting off the potential for communication to situate myself for somebody who I don't even know if I want to talk to them ever again in life. I wasn't interested in revisiting all my saltiness at that point.
Right.
So I don't know if I went that far with my dad, but I definitely told him the thing about like being intended to somebody who's essentially a stranger.
Right.
Because at that point, I think we had become, 4 years is a long time, 17 to 22, 17 to 21, or 18 to 22, because I was 18. We courted for a year. So I was 18 when we parted ways. So I was 22 when we came back together. And I was like, no, I know how much I've changed in the last 4 years. I don't know what he's been doing. I would have a conversation with the brother, but I'm not going to get intended to him And if I have to be intended to have the conversation, then I'll just pass. I'm not interested in doing that. And so he said, well, you made a solid argument. Let me sit on that for a moment. And he came back to me and was like, you made some good points. All of that. Those are valid arguments. Okay. Y'all could talk with this, and this. But it was all stuff we did the last time.
Right,
so
right.
Okay, third party, don't be alone, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we know the drill. By this point, of course, I was grown. So I was like, man, I'm just being nice. No, I'm just kidding. I was like, yeah, we know the stuff. But he, like you said, my dad is, he's easy to respect, I guess is one way to put it. He's easygoing. When he draws a line, it's a line that has to be drawn. He's not really he don't put unnecessary stuff in place. He doesn't really make things hard. At least he didn't for us. And so when he was like, this, and this, the stuff that was like Islamically sound, I was like, yeah, but you might be tripping here. He was like, all right, you don't got to do that one, but do this and this. Let me know about that,
Right.
And so we essentially just negotiated terms, and it was pretty easy after that.
Yeah, because that was around August, and by October it was like,
will you marry me?
Right.
Got out here on the one knee program. Nah.
Go ahead.
So I would like to commend you, Ayyub, on, the respecting, kind of respecting the protocol. I think that's something that is honorable. Yeah. That should be part of the process, for young men to learn that when an elder tells you something, that's it. Particularly the father. Yeah. But also, as a daughter, like you said, now when he drew a line, that was it. He's not overbearing, and he's drawing that line for your protection.
I knew
okay,
that.
So you get married. When does the marriage take place?
So we got married December 2006.
We were reintroduced in July. Mm-hmm. We started talking in August. We were intended in October. We were married in December.
Yeah.
MashaAllah.
Yeah. And it was
okay. Hold on.
My mom talking, what she said.
Why the father in particular?
My mom draws a lot of lines.
Okay.
That's my mom asking the question.
Oh, okay. MashaAllah. Yeah. So,
you didn't recognize the last name? That
okay.
Yeah, that's
I appreciate the tutorial too at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, Sister Majita's been for years, and I've always been kind of like, man, I wonder. So Miss Haygood. So I'll just say Haygood. I'm thinking like,
right.
Oh,
I don't really know how to pronounce that.
I figured that one out in high school. Makes it easy for everybody.
Oh, alhamdulillah. So
and I want to say in October, it was like, okay, we gonna do this, right?
Yes.
So then it was like, okay, we gotta do premarital counseling, because there's some things about marriage that we don't have the experience in. So that's we went to the email.
We got blood tests, we got counseling, we did everything.
Yeah, we did everything, and alhamdulillah, it everything. Nothing scared us away from each other. You know what I mean? Nothing scared us away from each other. Right. And so it was like, proceed, keep on going. And, we had these big plans as far as goals and things of that nature, but then life happens, right? Yeah. And you have to adjust, right? And adjust. And we were able to adjust together in a way that was not too hard. Alhamdulillah. You know what I mean? We were a good fit, and I think that we were able to really take the advice of the imam who gave us the premarital counseling on how to deal with tough situations, because they're gonna happen. You know what I mean?
Right.
And one of the biggest things was just that communication. You know what I mean? That communication and understanding not to lose yourself in your marriage. Because that builds a level of resentment, what I mean, when you start to lose yourself. And so we carry that on. It's not always easy, you know what I mean? Because she has ideas, and sometimes I'm scratching my head like, that's what you want to do, okay? But But we were always supportive of each other in the things that we wanted to do. You know, as long as it's nothing detrimental. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, at different times, you know, I need to go and be on suture now. You know what I mean? It wasn't a no, don't go do that. It was like do what you need to do. You know, and things of that nature. And so it was at the beginning. It was great. You know what I mean? It felt like the right thing to do. You know, and at the actual Walima, man, just seeing the people connect, they were already family, but to see the joy on all the family members, you know, just really interacting now as real family was, I mean, we look at the pictures a lot of times and just reflect on the power of our union and what it meant to both of our families, you know, have children that they both knew coming together, you know.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. That's really beautiful. With that history your families have with each other, I mean, you're just kind of bringing that last, you know, I think it's bringing it all together. You know, alhamdulillah. We have a question here. Given the change of technology, what kind of ground rules would you suggest today that would be the equivalent of your own ground rules that you would give?
Same thing. Don't have conversations late at night, you know.
Not just not late at night, but to not have too much one-on-one that's not in person with a third party, because on the phone it could be a challenge for people. Everything is on there, and so even just with texting or voice memos, it can get real gray. And so our oldest daughter, we recently told her, because she's 13, we recently told her, like, even her classmates, so she has to do projects with the boys, she no more one-on-one. Like if she has to do something, it needs to be a group chat, a group thing. And she was like, oh yeah, because you can't be alone with the boy. Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So even though she's not at the age where she's courting, we're already introducing that idea of you can't really do the one-on-one with boys for your own protection. Not just because of who you are, but because of who boys are and the way we're created. We're created for this. Right? This is normal. Stuff's supposed to happen. So you protect yourself in spaces where stuff is not supposed to happen. So so all of the same kind of things, you just bring it up to modern day, I think. Don't go places alone. Don't text one-on-one. Always let it be a group chat. And I think that it's easier than people think it is. People act like it's difficult. I don't really think it's that difficult.
So, Brother Ayyub, and this may not have been an issue because of the age of conversion. Was there ever a point with Sister Ndola's being a convert? Was there ever anything you felt like you couldn't talk about, or there was some real differences? I'm assuming because you all were raised together, essentially, school educated together, that may not have been an issue. But were there ever any?
No, it wasn't an issue because one, I really felt like her being Muslim was her choice. It wasn't for me. You know what I mean? It wasn't because Ayyub is Muslim and I like Ayyub that I want to be Muslim. I always felt like she was grounded in who she was Islamically by herself. You know, the way that she carried herself prior to us, you know, deciding that we wanted to get married showed me a way that it's like that her understanding of Islam is strong enough for me, you know what I mean, to be able to be the mother of my children, to be my wife and things of that nature. And so, you know, I always tell her, you know, no matter what happens to me, I feel secure knowing that my children will be Muslim. You know, and that's, as you know, as a father, especially to daughters, it's like, man, that in itself, you know what I mean? That in itself is powerful.
Yeah, it frees you up. Mentally, it frees you up. Yeah.
Definitely. So it was never a matter of converting, again, because of how we were both kind of raised and having this knowledge of self, that Afrocentric Pan-African link that was made at an early age. I'm glad that she had that, because a lot of people just come from straight American culture to Islam, and you're missing that disconnect, you know what I mean? To really have that true knowledge of self, that you have to tap into your heritage to receive and to get. And she had that. So I had the best of both worlds in my life. You know, so you know, it was easy because we understood each other's upbringing.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So there's a question. Can you elaborate on the lose yourself? What did you mean by the lose yourself in the marriage?
So one of the things that Imam Nadim, who did our counseling, he said a lot of times people come into marriage with this idea that you're two pieces coming to make a whole. You come in, you come together, you're now whole, and mashallah, this is so beautiful. But it's foolishness. You are two individuals coming together to complement one another. And you have to remain individuals and remain complementary. You don't, we're rarely attracted to people who are just like us in a romantic way. Maybe your friends have a lot in common with you, but typically married folk that work are very, very different. You got just enough in common to keep you together. And after that, you're very, very different. And sometimes people will acquiesce to the other in the idea of this is what I need to do to be in this relationship, forgetting that those differences are what brought you together in the first place. And so he is an avid basketball player, soccer, whatever, just sports.
Yeah.
He did that before we got married. Would I have been justified in saying, okay, now we're married. Okay, now you're done with that basketball stuff? Not at all. That would have not been okay. I was a career student. I was on my I couldn't get enough of college at the time. I was on my third degree, I think. Yep. And but he knew that about me, so he couldn't be like, all right, now we're married, so enough of that, you know, come have this baby. You know what I'm saying? But people do that. People come into relationships and just kind of want to be up under each other, and they lose their own interests, and they don't spend time with their friends, and they don't do the things they need to do. And they look up, and all this time has passed, and they don't know themselves. They don't know their spouse. Their spouse don't know them because they've been pretending and tucking themselves away. And I said, how many women have I met that was 40? And that was like, I looked up one day and I didn't know what was going on in my life. I felt like I didn't know my husband. I feel like all I've done for the last 20 years is mother and wife, but it wasn't even authentic. And then they end up getting divorced, or maybe not getting divorced, but just having to renegotiate their whole relationship based on becoming aware of who they are. And so we essentially were advised against that many, many times, not just the counselor, but his wife and some of the other community folks was like, look, y'all, stay separate and stay together. You know, what did they say? It's kind of like scissors. You have this axis that you can come together on. If anything comes in between, you can cut it off. Yeah. You don't let nothing come between you. So you got to keep things out of your personal, intimate spaces. You know, don't divulge each other's secrets and things, but also don't try to become a melting pot of each other. I don't have to become a basketball player because Ayyub loves basketball. I can watch the game sometimes. I can not, you know. It doesn't have to be my thing. He doesn't have to bake because I like baking. Yes, you should have some interest in supporting. I would go to his games, but if I was like tired, it was okay for me to say, I'm not really interested in coming today. Right. Or if he wanted to do March Madness, I could say, go do that. I don't want to do March Madness with you. Like, it's madness.
Hey, man, March Madness is the best time of the year, right, brother? Outside of Ramadan.
And that's when y'all get together. Y'all get together and y'all do that. And I have to be okay with the fact this is who I married, right? It's not haram. He ain't hurting nobody. Are the bills paid? Have I gotten the attention I need? Are the girls being held? You know what I'm saying? Like, needs are met, but maybe you're not going to do so much because I know March Madness is coming up. So, all right, girls, daddy needs some uncle time. You know, he needs his brother time this month. We're going to do our own thing, you know? But I mean, a lot of people don't do this. Right. A lot of people get upset. He's watching basketball again. Oh, she's doing this again. And it's like, but that's how we came in, and not in no bad stuff. I guess that's the main thing is we're not talking about bad habits or negative things or detrimental things.
But just to interject, right? Even in that, right? She gave me a level of balance, right? When we first got together, I had all the channels, NBA League Pass,
it was excessive.
But I was working 2 jobs at the time. So I would stay up till 1 o'clock sometimes to watch the games and have to go to work at 3 o'clock in the morning, graveyard shift, right?
Man, you're getting it in.
Right. And she came to me one day and was like, you know, if you miss watching this basketball game, what's going to happen? And I had to say, nothing.
Because you can watch it later.
you know. And so, you know, that's where, you know, she came in. This was immediate, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't her trying to tell me don't watch the game. She was just
Right.
trying to get me to think smarter about my time and energy. Like, you don't need to be up till 1 watching some basketball game, and you know you got to be out the door at 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah,
don't make sense. And so, you know, that's when I kind of knew that, okay, this would work, because she's not trying to move me away from who I am. She's just trying to get me to better understand the decisions that I'm making.
alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
We have another question. What constants do you recommend for people looking to marry now? The family support and moral backgrounds don't exist for many these days that you had. What constants would you recommend for people looking to marry now?
So for me, right, like I said, I was literally working on myself to the best of my ability, doing the things that I know I needed to do to be a good person, right? And so making salat, you know, fasting, not just during Ramadan, but some of the, you know, the other fasts, the Monday and Thursdays, you know, making tahajjud, you know, istikara was big for me, you know what I mean? And at that time, you know, I had an understanding of Islam that when you didn't know something, you can actually read it. Right. You don't have to memorize something to not be able to read it during prayer. Right. Allah knows your intentions. Right. So I had to get the istikhara prayer, put it in front of me, and actually read it and ask Allah for things. You know what I mean? And so
I feel you, brother. I feel you.
I know. And so a lot of times, you know, for me, I think the most important thing, right, is to really focus in on yourself. Because if you're confident in yourself prior to finding somebody, you're gonna know whether or not it's a good fit. Because it's gonna be uncomfortable. If it's throwing you off of who you've been working to be, then that's not gonna be good for you. You know what I mean? But if you shaking in that and expect somebody to come in and balance you, then that's not gonna work.
Right.
You know, because you got to always be able to balance yourself first. Because as you know, when you grow, things change. You know, so you gotta recalibrate yourself all the time. You know, but you have to do that. You can't depend. I can't depend on Ndola to recalibrate myself. You know, so the prayer was a big one. The fasting was a big one, and just watching the environments that I spent time in. You know what I mean? And those are the constants I think that people should focus in on when they're seeking to be married. Because Allah, man, He's powerful. You know what I mean? Like I tell my daughters right now, I say, everything good that I have, I've asked Allah for.
MashaAllah.
You know, like I tell them the prayer that I made during Istikhara, as far as having a beautiful wife who will be a great mother to my children, who will help raise beautiful, you know, children. I didn't ask for daughters or sons. I asked for children, you know, beautiful, healthy children. You know, alhamdulillah, they're that. You know what I mean? And so I asked Allah for that. You know what I mean? And so that, you know, like ask, you know what I mean? Learn what you want, right? You know, I didn't ask Allah for a 5'9" light brown, you know. Because your beauty changes, right? It changes, right? And so it's like, you know, you can be specific like that if you want to, you know, and Allah will produce that for you. But if you are, and then a 5'3" comes through, that's a great match for you. And you like, nah, I asked Allah for a 5'9", you know.
Give me that yardstick. Let me hold on, stand on your tiptoes.
Right. And so, you know, and that's vice versa for brothers and sisters, you know what I'm saying? And so, you know, just really getting to know yourself, you know, and I think those are the things that help you to get to know yourself.
Yeah. I think that for women in particular, it's important to have a wali. And if it can't be your father or your dad, to have somebody that can be your guardian for you. Because one thing about men and women, men speak men, women speak women. And many men know how to speak women just enough to get what they want, and vice versa. And so there were things that my dad looked for in him during our official courting time that I hadn't considered. Like he would go, so where he was working at the time, where Ayyub was working was across the street from a masjid. And so my dad would take a long lunch break every day to go to that masjid to see if he was taking a break to go to the masjid for prayer. Because his position was, I don't care how much work you have to do. If the masjid is across the street, that's where you need to be making salat, Dhuhr and Asr. And sometimes he was going there for Fajr to see if he was going to Fajr, because that was the closest masjid to Ayyub's house. And that's not something that I thought, I didn't even consider it. Not that I didn't think it's important, because it is important, but in my mind, is it that big of a deal? Mind you, I am 22. I'm like, is it that big of a deal? And he was like, it's absolutely that big of a deal, because a man is obligated to pray at the masjid when he can. And if he's across the street, why is he not going? And so I was like, you stalking this brother, Dad? Like, chill. And he was like, look, essentially,
my lineage. This is my lineage here on the line.
Right, stand down. And so, I mean, I didn't say much about it, because again, when my dad does stuff, it's like, I'm sure there's something to it. And my dad is a man of few words. He doesn't talk a lot. He's not going to just chat unnecessarily. Right. So I did say, why are you stalking him? And he was like, I need to see if he's going to the masjid for prayer. And like, that was the end of it. He told me more later, but that was something that was really important in his mind that I didn't think about. And then, I mean, I just know women like what they hear, men like what they see. And so a woman can dress real nice, a man can talk real good, they can get together, feel like it's working, and it's a terrible situation. And so when we sat down for marriage counseling, I did want a male counselor, because I know I'm all right, but I got to get to know this guy. I want a man to hear what he's saying and to ask him the questions, because the man that we went to has 4 daughters. Even though he's very attached to Ayyub, it was one of his community fathers, he had a long-standing relationship with my parents as well. And I also feel like he was an upstanding guy. He wasn't going to short me in the name of getting Ayyub what he wanted. And so, and then a lot of times men that's like another dad, their son, they're going to be a little harder on them, because, I need you to stand up to what you've been taught. So I felt very comfortable with the counselor we went to. And I felt like he was going to have my protection at the forefront, even before Ayyub. And I feel like he actually was more balanced, but I knew that at the very least I wasn't going to get shorted. And so a lot of times women, we overestimate ourselves and our ability to know what's going on and to take care of things. But it's a reason that Allah told us to have a man speak for us for marriage, particularly. He doesn't say for business. He doesn't say for purchases. He says for marriage, right? Because men can talk their way into a woman's heart, and women can dress their way into a man's heart. And it can be very superficial. You know what I mean? And so, so having a man that can be in place, and then vice versa, have a woman that can chill with her, talk to her, see what she's talking about. How does she really engage with other women, with children, with her family, all that kind of stuff? Because he has sisters, and it was very important to me. How did he engage with them? Was he on some, oh, nah, they be tripping, I ain't messing with them? Because how does he treat his mom? You know what I mean? Because how a man treats his mom is usually how he's going to treat you. At some point. That's how he's going to value a woman. And so a lot of the traditional stuff, I feel like it still has its place. Like, I don't think that it's just because we have social media and technology, it doesn't change the fact that people are still people. And things that protected us 100 years ago can very frequently still protect us.
Alhamdulillah. Nah, your story is beautiful. MashaAllah. I mean, but I would say it sounds like both of you had really good men, and I'm sure you had really good sisters in your life. You had really good men, and sometimes that's the missing key when we talk about things today. Is men have kind of been pushed to the side, but it sounds like you had really good men in your lives. I mean, Brother Ayyub, you had brothers who you could model yourself, after. Sister Ndola, your father was on the Magnum PI program.
He was on it.
And he needed to be, because this is my lineage. Right. This is not a game. These are my grandkids.
I thought he carried a gun before that. I was like, you got a gun? Where'd you get a gun? He was like, look. No, we did have good women, and it usually takes good women and good men to have the good men. Got to be some good men modeling somewhere. Women keeping the men good, men keeping the women good. But there were definitely a lot of good men involved, for sure.
MashaAllah. Well, we really appreciate it, and I think we'll be able to have another one. I think this one. I think, inshallah, I think this one went pretty well. inshallah, we'll have another program. I don't know if it'll top this one. Really, really, really appreciate it.
Hard to top.
It's beautiful to see. You know what I mean? Because in a time where when you hear about marriage, generally it's all bad news. So-and-so got divorced, women are this, men are this. It's good to see people happy, and who respected a process, but also parents who were open, to nature and reality, and saying, you shouldn't be liking that boy, you should be liking boys, as if you're the weirdo, or why you want to get married. You know what I'm saying? It's beautiful, beautiful story. Alhamdulillah. Anything you'd like to say before we go?
I mean, I think a little advice for people, is that marriage is something that is a continuum, like in order to continue things, you have to get married. Like that's where children are supposed to come from, and I think that in our society, we don't talk about it enough, like I always say, it's been a lot of janazas, but not a lot of akikas. And so for people, that are Muslim, understand that that's very important. You know what I mean? To have akikas, man, and be able to give, that's a right of the child, and that instills something in the child, right? That inshallah is the seed for them to continue to practice Islam, and so don't underestimate that, and really, really take marriage seriously, and make sure that you're doing the work. Like marriage is not easy, right? But if you do the work, it becomes easier.
Right.
It's not all about sacrifice and submission and all that kind of stuff, but it's work involved. And if you do the work, then it will become easier over time, inshallah. But it's continuous. It's a continuum. You have to continue to do the work. And that's my last.
That's it for you?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm glad you said it's not continue. It's not all work, because sometimes we be presented, man, where's work? People believe in work, like, man, I gotta go home and work 8 more hours. Like, I'm straight. I think I'll stay single.
Right. Man, alhamdulillah, that's one of the things that I love about her is that, I can honestly say, no matter how hard it is out there, my house has been a place of peace. Even in the hard times, it's been a place of peace that we're able to work through, you know what I mean? Work through some things, as opposed to, like you said, sitting in the car, like, man, I got going to house, alhamdulillah, that wasn't my experience, that wasn't my experience. So I give that credit to her, because she's the maintainer of the home, you know what I mean? Yeah. And to be able to give me that that's a privilege, you know what I mean? To have peace in my house.
No, it is. All right, Sister Ndola. Whoa.
Hey.
All right. So what's your final word?
Before I get to my final on this last part that he said, I remember one day being at the masjid, hearing the brothers talking. They the masjid usually had a curtain, and this day the curtain was pulled back, and they were joking about men that come in and make salat and just want to talk too long. And it was like, we got a hard time at home, but the ones that get in, make salat, give salams to be up out of there, like he's rushing home to be with his wife. And I don't know why that sat with me. They were saying it as a joke, but I could tell it wasn't really a joke. And it sat with me like, oh, that's a real thing. Like, brothers really don't want to go home. I'm like, I don't want to have that kind of situation at home. And so I'm glad that it's been working out for you. I've been trying.
You're the real MVP.
One of the things that occurs to me the most is that people get married for romantic reasons, and sometimes that's it. They're in love, and that's all they have. Yeah, we respect each other and we'll trust and we'll communicate, but they don't consider the fact that marriage is business. You're talking about your inheritance, you're talking about what you build, you're talking about your progeny, you're talking about all of these things of your life. People don't treat marriage enough like business. They treat it like it's just supposed to be this thing that makes you happy, and it's just love, and it's not just that. Yes, I need to have some peace and happiness in my marriage, but I also need to be able to pass something to my children, and to build into this community, and to do things for myself, and to help you do things for yourself. And you can do those things, I think, when you approach it from the right position, not business as in let's sit down and write bylaws, but business as in what is it that we're going to accomplish together? What are we going to build together? How are we going to extend the sacrifices and the work that our parents and grandparents and grandparents have done? Because our folks, they've done some things, either our direct ancestors or our communal ancestors. Like they've done too much for us to not be accomplishing things. And so I know a lot of my perspective definitely comes from that whole Pan-African kind of like, you know, we've done too much. Like, we put in. Yeah, we put in so much in this country and in the world in general. When we think that we can continue to build without looking at it from that point of view, I think it's just not wise. And so I see a lot of people that are madly in love and they get married, and then a year later, 3 years later, 5 years later, mashallah, they're not together no more. But if they extended that love to more things, like what can we accomplish? What can we do? How do our families fit? Like what can, you know what I mean? Like it's just so much more to healthy marriage than the two of you being together and having babies. Because when you have them babies, and babies got to get educated somewhere. Where is that building going to happen? You got to be able to be a part of a community. You don't have to, but you should be a part of a community. You should be able to do all these things. And I consider those things parts of the business of marriage. He had a community, I didn't. That had to be negotiated. You got to name these children. You got to teach them. What are you going to teach them? How are they going to dress? Like all of that stuff. A lot of people don't consider. They're just in love. And so our counselor, he had us go through how we manage money. What do we do when we get upset? What kind of things do we want to accomplish? How many degrees do you want to get? What kind of job? I feel like that stuff is kind of more businessy than just easy, sit down and be married and be happy. And he was like, no, all of this stuff, you got to do all of this. And we still, I mean, almost 15 years ago, we still refer to that stuff just in regular conversation or even in disagreement. Like, oh yeah, I learned 15 years ago that when I get upset, I do this and he does that. And so that's something that I might not like and he might not like, but this is where we are. So we're going to take this moment and we're going to negotiate this thing. And so it's not a personal moment. It's more transactional sometimes. And and the people who I know that have healthy marriages, they might not say business, but they describe it in a very similar way, which is where I got it from. Talking to people that had solid marriages, like what do y'all do for this? Or how does this work? And it's just an efficiency that comes along with coming into it with the point of view that he's not here to make me happy, because he can't. He can't make me happy. I gotta make myself happy, and he can support that.
Mashallah.
Like you said, I can't do stuff for him. I can support him in his stuff. So yeah, I think that would be my final thing.
Alhamdulillah. Well, thank you all again. This is a great first one out. You know, brother Ayyub, mashallah, thank you. I love the cup. I love the cup too, brother. Alhamdulillah.
He made that for our 9th anniversary.
I see you. I see you working. Mashallah. So
I didn't see that on the bottom. You tripping.
Yeah, I saw two.
He said, well,
yeah, just in case you didn't know the date, I'll give you the date.
We got a little history.
I can't.
Mashallah. No, I really appreciate it. So we'll end with Surah Al-Asr, and inshallah, I think we'll be able to have another program. I don't know if we'll be able to top this one though. Alhamdulillah. So,
all
right. Bismillah ar-Rahman wal asr inna inshallah fi qusr inna alladhina amanu wa aminu salihati wa sabr. Inshallah, you all have a good night. Thank you all. And thank everybody, who attended. MashaAllah.
Yes,
we'll see you in the future for another program. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.